joining me today is a rising artist from New York City, Grandmaster Shotgun. So take it
Yes,
away.
sir.
So
Yes,
how
sir.
he is a uh, not I don't want to say rapper, maybe hip hop artist or around that
Either
area.
I'm not. I don't get offended by either one. It's it's the same thing to me, honestly.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's like I've heard something that's like not really something very easy to understand. So hip hop artist is probably much more easy to understand.
Yeah.
So, so how did you get into your well, yeah. How did you get into performing arts?
Well, honestly, like music has been like a big part of my life since I was a kid, and you know, from when I was young, I was into all these different types of music. Like my mom, she loves R&B. Uh, my dad, he loves rap music, and my brother was like this weird mix of the between the two. Even though we had different dads, like he'd be around. My mom listened to like Fantasia, Usher, and like even older stuff, and that kind of opened the world of music to me. And from then on, I kind of found my lane within those two things.
Fantasia is a name I haven't heard in like maybe 15 years, maybe give or
Yeah,
take.
we love Fantasia. When I see you is the gym, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like whenever that comes on, I know my mom is cleaning in the crib or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah, that's like a name I haven't heard in like maybe 15 years or so. So I'm like amazing people still remember like
yeah, of course.
jamming to her and stuff like that because if I remember correctly, she was on American Idol, right?
Fantasia, I believe so. I'm not too sure. I don't remember.
Yeah.
My memory is crazy. So
Anyway, so you definitely got the influence done by your family, especially growing up. Were there any other artists that you personally enjoyed growing up that you feel are great inspirations for you?
uh, hmm, as a kid, it was definitely Jay Z, Nas, um, Kanye. On Lil Wayne too, for sure. Definitely Lil Wayne. There was a point in time like everybody wanted to be that man. Like he was untouchable
Yeah.
at a point. But yeah, and as I grew, as my knowledge of music expanded, like other artists like Joey Badass, Lupe Fiasco, J Cole, people like that have really influenced the style I have now.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Uh, when it comes to, I guess, lyrics, do you have like a particular way of doing lyrics? Like,
What do you mean?
do you have like a way of say I have this idea of what to write about, so just give me like, am I, are you off to the corner writing your like beats or lyrics like that, or is it just like a freestyle thing where it's just like I know what I want to talk about and I just go from there?
For me, it doesn't really matter. Like I feel like if you give me a concept to write about, I could, focus up and like, yeah, sit in the corner and just, write to that concept. It doesn't really matter to me. My brain is infinite with ideas. But freestyling and like that's how I came up as a rapper, you know what I mean? Well, as a hip hop artist rather, like freestyling, like that's what I was, introduced to as a kid. So that's like my natural element to be honest.
Yeah. Uh, now I'm not really like I really don't have like a hip hop background. I listen more to rock and roll,
Mm.
heavy metal. Basically stuff that isn't just Although there are artists like Ice T and stuff like that who do like
Yeah.
metal like type of metal bands, that sort of thing too. So there are rappers or hip hop artists who actually do infuse their work into like other type of works. But yeah, growing up, I really didn't experience. I mean, I was in a quote unquote ghetto high school. The two high schools I was that were in the area where I was. John Dewey High School and Lafayette, they were the quote unquote, ghetto schools of one, Brooklyn, especially around Coney Island.
Yeah.
So, and Lafayette was more of the more dangerous school, and we were more of the school that was like just like Dewey,
Yeah, I got you.
yeah, John Dewey's just there. It's like it's like 9 times out of 10, it's like nothing really happened. It was just like on depending on where it was and stuff like that. But since I was in part of a different part of the building there, it's weird but yeah, growing up, I did have friends who were, listening to hip hop, that sort of thing. You know, Eminem was like coming out like very strong with his, what was it, D12? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, with Royce and stuff like that. With I love D12. I was just listening to them the other day actually. I should bring them up. Yeah.
and I remember, my band was always like playing around somewhere in the lunchroom or not lunchroom, around my, few friends that I had in high school, and we would always have like, like randomly we were just like, just shout out the we don't like. I guess because they knew I didn't know much about rap or hip hop, they would just like only use songs that were like kind of like popular at the time. So like something like
Yeah.
my and lose yourself, that sort of thing. So they didn't really. So I didn't really like deep dive into like hip hop as I would, if I really wanted to do that, I would have, take a class about that stuff. Especially since some of my classes, especially some of my music classes, have shown me a lot of good stuff from
Yeah.
like early days, like Grandmaster Flash and stuff like that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
so if I really wanted to, I would really have to take like a class on this sort of stuff to really appreciate this stuff instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, I listen to uh,
Yeah.
Run
Definitely.
DMC." Like I listened to Run DMC when I was growing up, that sort of thing. It's like, and people like people listen to Run DMC all the time, so it's like it's an easy getaway band. So yeah, but back to my point. Yeah, growing up, I really didn't have anything, but freestyling, I do remember some instances in high school where I did see my friends like freestyle a little bit, and I know one of my high school friends, Danny, he still freestyles like anything. He would always be on his Instagram freestyling, like right before he goes to work, boom, like a freestyle, like Instagram videos, that sort of thing. Uh,
Mm.
to those who are really not like that, to someone like me, or to those who are not really knowledgeable with freestyling, how is that process like really, really, is that a drawn out process, or is that just like a process that's just like, hey, I'm in the moment, I'm gonna sing what I feel like, I'm in the moment, I'm gonna sing what I feel in the moment.
Um. To me, there's really no wrong way to go about freestyling. Like, to me, a freestyle is whatever you can say like right at the moment. It doesn't matter if it's pre-written, or if it's really up the top of your head, because no one really knows, honestly. Like, if you spit
Yeah,
it like right then and there, no one's gonna be like, oh, like he pre-wrote that, or whatever the case may be. They're like, oh, it's a freestyle because you know, he rapped this verse or this song right here in front of me. That's how
yeah,
I that's how I take it, because it doesn't really matter. There's no wrong way to approach it, honestly. Like, freestyle is whatever at the moment, to whatever beat or to whatever.
because it is like, and I do remember 8 Mile having like the freestyle focal point of the thing where it's just like you just see like Eminem just being like, oh, he can't really freestyle in front of all these people, and then over the movie, he knows how to like really destroy like really destroy the people in front of him. So it's
Yeah.
like, so I get the sensation that freestyling, even though it is in the moment, depending on how you want to do it, it's like an art form that is like very, because I know there are freestyle poets like who do poetry like that. Who I'm not sure if they go into. I'm not sure if poetry is also a part of the freestyling element
I
too.
mean,
Because
it could
like,
be. I mean, poetry is all a part of rap. It's in, like, rap is an acronym. Rap stands
yeah.
for rhythm and poetry. So
Oh,
there's
okay,
always there's always some type of poetry within music. Whether it doesn't really matter who the artist is. It could be Young Thug. That's a form of poetry.
yeah,
It's just the way he's delivering it makes it different. You know what I mean?
yeah.
All rap is poetic in some shape or form. So all of it, honestly, it's just the way it's delivered that makes it seem like it's more poetic than others.
Uh, Now with the artists that you grew up with, have you seen any artists that has essentially evolved over time? That like where someone like Kanye West, like not every single album is like the same, like the same feel. He has a different like, I don't want to say concept. Well, yeah, different concept for per per release.
I
So yeah, growing up, did you see like artists that were really evolving, especially?
um definitely, I think you took the answer from it. Definitely, well, Kanye is definitely one of those people for sure. Like if you see from like from college dropout to graduation, and then we came out with 808 to Heartbreak, that completely like changed his whole style, and it gave birth to new artists like Travis Scott, Kid Cudi, Little
Yeah,
Uzi. Same thing with Little Wayne. Little Wayne at first was just a regular rapper. Then he threw the rock kind of sound in there with "I'm Not a Human Being" 1 and 2. There's a whole bunch of artists that I've seen evolve. Over time. Change styles. Maybe throw something in there to make the music different, or whatever the case may be. Um uh like Joey Badass. Let's just use him for an example. If you see when he first came out in 1999, it was real. Let me just say nostalgic. It was very boom bap. Their beats were very, let me not say old, but I guess timeless. I guess. And then he comes out with on the Beast Coast album, and it's very very different. Everything is fast paced. There's a lot of like I guess bops stuff you can play in like parties and things like that, as
yeah,
opposed to him being just a regular. I give you a 16 bars, I give you a hook, and I give you another 16. The evolution is always different for everybody.
yeah. And I think that the reason why evolution works around with them is because probably production values too. Whereas just like some of these earlier albums, they could be in like a very a production space like sort of like this, whereas there's like it's a small room, nothing, it's not that many people in there, you know, there's a sound mixer, that sort of thing. It's just like maybe a couple of people. So over time, of course, once their ideas of having to starting to become a lot more in tune, like what to write about, like they get, maybe they get like a choir to sing like like an actual choir to back.
Yeah,
So it's like, and especially with someone like who was it? Yeah, Lil Nas X. Yeah, is it? Yeah, that's how you pronounce his name, right?
yeah, Lil Nas X.
Especially with that, you know, he I think he got his start from TikTok or something like that, or it was like that sort of thing where it's just like you start off like very small, but if you get to a point where it's like you're able to essentially bounce around to a point where you become famous, or at least somewhat like famous within your region. Like so, like New York artists. That's like it's very hard because like when you say, "Oh yeah, I'm a New York rapper," it's like it's very hard to say.
Yeah, New York is like a pot. You feel me? There's a whole
Yeah,
bunch of everything in New York now. Like there's the drill scene. There's people like me who still do the old school stuff, and then
yeah,
there's everybody else. You feel me? There's a whole blend of styles in New York. When you say you're a New York artist, you got to really specify what kind of music you do because you could
yeah.
be,
So
you
it's
know,
like if Lil Nas X started in New York City, then it would be it's a little hard to pinpoint like what type of style he does because New York artists, like as you just said, there are like so many different music styles in New York City
yeah,
alone, where it's just like even if your primary field is hip hop, all right, and there are like different subgenres of hip hop, and it's like, and especially in New York, and especially in the tri-state, it's like, oh, it's like I know some Jersey rappers, I know some rappers from like Connecticut or Pennsylvania, that sort of thing too. So it's like it and with New York City, I feel like it's always also a fusion of styles too. So just
yeah,
because yeah, it's because and that's something that's like greatly missed on people who do like shows like in full on venues and stuff like that. Where it's just like, I mean, people still do venue shows. It's just that it's more like limited, that sort of thing. But when it was like a full venue and it'd be like band after band, maybe artist, band, artist, all that stuff. It's like hearing those people come before you sort of like give you a sensation of where to go next, especially in terms of especially in front of a live audience.
yeah,
So I imagine being in front of a live audience is much more especially if it's like a audience full of like maybe 100 people or something like that, where it's just like you're just feeding off the energy. Whereas opposed to, if you're just feeding off the energy of something like uh, maybe a neighbor, a neighborhood barbecue or something like that. That's sort of like the same thing, but it doesn't feel like it's not like the same type of power. So it definitely feels like there are artists who, excuse me, there are artists who definitely work their way up, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the regions that they are. But yeah, but since you did mention New York artistry, you are actually friends with people who I've actually interviewed on the show that were New York artists. Well, I know 6-Bit Wanderer is not necessarily a New York artist,
Nah,
but
he definitely not. But
he definitely has roots in New York City. And Debstein, you definitely know him, and he's a true
that's
New
my
York artist
that's my
too.
brother, man. That's my dreadhead brother right there.
So how did you actually get to know these two people?
Uh,
Because
um,
sorry to interrupt you, but I know them because of mutual friends, that sort of thing too. So was it the same thing where it's like, oh, I know you? It's like, hey, it's like I know a friend who knows you, so it's like that.
um, well, I think you actually interviewed him before. His name is
Yeah,
Devonte
yeah,
Jeffries. So in 2017, I think I was leaving my alumni barbecue at my high school, right? And I was leaving, and I saw Devonte, and he stopped me. He's like, "Hey, I see you going crazy with the music stuff." A producer, he just moved here from Hawaii, and he has no artist. So I'm like, give me his number. At first, Devonte gave me the wrong number, so like I had to press him for like a week for him to give me the right number. So I called him, right? I called Blaine one day, and I was like, and we were talking a little bit, and we were thinking of a day to meet up. So I was like, all right, I can meet you on a Friday or something like that. So, yeah, Friday came. I had a game that day. It was funny. I had a basketball game that day. So I finished the game. So I text Blaine and was like, hey, I just finished my game. I'm about to go home, shower, and I'm gonna head my way. So at first, like, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little paranoid because like I didn't know this dude.
yeah,
So I'm like, yo, what if I go over there? He just trying to lie to me, whatever the case may be. So I'm like, let me tell one of my friends to come. So I asked one of my other friends. His name is Luke Kane. Shout out to Luke Kane, by the way. He came with me to Blaine's house, and at first we like just chilled. We talked for a little bit, and then like Blaine threw a like. I think Blaine asked, "Oh, what do you guys want to do?" Because the mic was standing right there. So I was like, "All right, let's just freestyle, I guess." So Luke Kane was like, "All right, I got a beat." So he threw on the Uchiwali beat by Nas and the Bravehearts, and so me and Lou did that beat, and Blaine like he mixed it a little bit, and he was like, "Yo, y'all really good." So then I started coming back more and more often, and then me and him built a relationship, and
yeah.
then I think like 3 months after that he moved back back to Hawaii. Dev, I'm trying to remember where I met Dev. Devontae put me on to him too. I think I met him at a party. I'm not too sure, out in Brooklyn, and then we just became cool after that. I don't remember where I met him, but I think it was there, a party on Brooklyn on like New Year's, I think the same year. But yeah, I met him, and then we built a relationship, over time.
Yeah.
I have a few songs with him. You know what I mean? And then we just he's at the studio every time we go to the studio. Like me and my homies from Two City, 3ville and OAG. Like we go. He's our engineer, so yeah,
Yeah.
he's there. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, I met Blaine like going on 3 years ago, and I met uh Dev like 3 years ago as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. I
I know a
know.
few. I know a few. Sorry to cut you off, but I know a few other
No.
people you interviewed too. But we not. That's neither here nor there. So
Yeah, it's like it's odd because it's like that's another thing about New York City is like it's like I don't really want to use a very stereotypical song, but New York City entertainment is really a small world after all because there's a lot of people who would
yeah,
know. It's like you would know someone who would actually know someone, and they would actually know like that person you're talking about. It's like it's literally a weird thing about entertainment, especially in New York City, where it's like, especially if
yeah,
especially with things like in CUNY, where it's like the CUNY music scene, especially in places like BMCC or Brooklyn College,
mad
they have
small.
like Huh?
It's like a small community. It's like everybody
Yeah, it's
know each other.
like the
Same thing
old
with yeah, same thing
like
with sports, like basketball, just like that. And especially in New York City, like you've heard of one name, and it's like everybody knows this person. You know?
yeah, especially and that's the thing that that I was trying to like go back to with that previous talking point where it's like New York City is like, oh, just because you're a New York City artist, it doesn't mean that you're a singer or actor. It could mean like legitimately like several different things because like Depstein, like when he was on my show, he was literally in the studio about to do some not only like he was like legitimately about to do uh some music afterwards, and who's it called, Blaine, he would be talking about like engineering stuff like that, and then I know he just maybe recently did some like music stuff like as a DJ or something like that. Because I'm not remember, I don't remember offhand,
Um,
but
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
so
I th-
it's
yeah,
yeah, so it's odd living in New York City and knowing all these artistry friends, and you kind of expect a lot of these artistry friends in New York City to be like, oh, if you're an artist in New York City, 9 times out of 10, a lot of people think you're just an actor. And no, there's there are actors, of course. Uh,
yeah. Facts.
yeah, that's my bread and butter on this show. But I kid. Uh, but when you talk about New York City artists, especially those who for at least a couple of years now, the artists in New York City, they become your friends for life, or after a while they just become like very good associates, and or they just become essentially like frenemies or just like arch rivals, that sort of thing, because there are artists, like I'm pretty sure I'm pretty, and you know no lie, there are actors who I'm just like, I'm insanely jealous of their talent, because I'm like, even though I feel I'm talented enough, I'm just like, I'm probably not gonna be on a talented level, so I feel like
Shouldn't think like that. I don't think of it as like I'm jealous of them because they're better than me. You feel me? It's someone in our group.
yeah,
His name is J3. He's way better than I am, but I don't envy him because of that. It makes me want to like, perfect my craft even more. So me and him, I don't look at it as competition. I look at it, as like motivation. I
yeah,
used to get better. I don't need to envy. You feel me? I'm in my
yeah.
own lane. You feel me?
That was the
And
thing that was the thing I noticed that during college too, was that there were a lot of actors who would be a little envious without really saying that they were envious, and I'm kind of like able to really sense like when people are envious or something like that, or something like that, or of someone's talent or something like that, because they would be like, oh, they'd be nice to you, and then suddenly they try to sabotage you in the long run.
yeah,
So even though New York artists are like, it's a small world, it's also, depending on the artist, it's also a cutthroat, world,
word.
uh,
It,
especially to which world you're in, because
yeah,
acting is acting, you know.
music
But
is a lot different because
yeah, music is a lot different.
there's a
So
lot of a lot of other stuff like under the surface. Like it's
yeah,
more than just music. It's politics at this point, honestly.
yeah, and it's like, just because you have like an EP, yeah, just because you have an EP, yeah, that's what it is. Like an EP, that's not like this an album. That's just more like a collection of a couple of songs, right? An EP.
Yeah,
Just because you have an EP doesn't mean that you could get that EP out. It's like my EP now is on Spotify or Apple Music, or what have you. You know, you still need to have like uh, people not only to support you, but just people in general to just be supportive of each other. But music has always been like a very cutthroat type of thing, where it's just like, you need to know the right people, and the right people need to know that type of right people, and so forth and so on.
yeah,
And there are artists who will be very vindictive to each other because they think they're a better singer or rapper or
yeah,
what have you.
definitely.
So And from your experience, and you don't have to talk about this like really offhand, like you don't have to name names or something like that, but have you seen that type of like experience getting into music where it's just like there are people who are trying to discourage you into being in rap or hip hop, that sort of thing?
I don't really pay attention to them. That's not really my business. If you hating on me, you probably broke. That's the first thing. And if you hating on second thing, if you're watching what I'm doing, it's taking time away from what you need to do.
Yeah.
So everybody that's discouraging me is so white noise to me. It goes in through one ear and out the other. I used to let stuff like that bother me, but I'm 23 now. You feel me?
Yeah.
I don't let that's little kid stuff. You feel me?
By the time you hit your early 30s, it's like, yeah, that shit just doesn't, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it don't
When
apply
you're
to me.
18, it's like, that does bother me, but it's like, but after like once you hit your mid, like early to mid 30s, I mean, early to mid 20s, it's just sort of like it's like in one ear out the other ear. But there are people who just try to be like very
Where
very vindictive because they think
I
they're
just don't I just don't care. Personally, me, I
yeah
just don't care. Honestly, all my friends will tell you like I'm probably the most carefree person. I just don't like
yeah.
anybody argue me. I just be like, all right, you yelling and screaming and getting all hot for no reason.
It's whatever, man. It's like
Yeah, facts. I got things to do. You worried about me, so
it also it also could be like the New York mentality too. Is like the moment you become like a true New Yorker, it's like that mentality of just like I just don't give a shit anymore because I've seen things that you like I've seen
word.
crazier things. Like it like and again that and again being a New York artist, you do grow that New York mentality too, where it's just like not a lot of things really do affect you anymore, and it kind of and I think that actually helps you in your craft because I'm not sure if it does help you in your craft, but
I'm
I
not
know
gonna say I'm not gonna say it helps me, but it definitely plays a part in the content I talk about because being from New York is it's gritty out here. You know what I mean?
yeah
And I'm from the Bronx too. Like I'm from a essentially a bad neighborhood.
yeah
So I mean, you can probably hear the back sirens going crazy right now, and it's not even 2 o'clock yet. So
yeah I live by both a firehouse, I mean a fire department station and a police department station within blocks of each other. So every now and
same.
then, just like every now and then I would just hear like the fire department thing, but it's like a very quiet neighborhood here, and I live in like practically the southeast end of New York. I mean, the southeast end of Brooklyn. I'm not
Mm.
really sure where Bensonhurst is in terms of like where in terms of Brooklyn itself, because but it's definitely in the south end of like maybe the southeast end of Brooklyn. Yeah, because or at least the southwest end or around that area. It's hard to understand where South Brooklyn really is because South Brooklyn is literally it goes from like maybe Sunset Park all the way to like maybe East New York. Like and
Mm.
that's like the diagonal straight line. And whatever's below all that stuff is still part of South Brooklyn. So it's like it's very hard to understand where South Brooklyn is compared to other parts of Brooklyn because Brooklyn is
Yeah.
Brooklyn because and that's that and that's another great thing about New York City is that Brooklyn has also been a great source of music scene too, where it's just like venue wise and just like being able to springboard your career as an artist in New York City is usually by going to Brooklyn. I mean, unless you're able to go to Manhattan and spend like say $300 or $400 or what have you just to pay in order to perform uh, uh, like an hour or something like that at a well-known venue, that's still important. But I feel like Brooklyn is a lot more better in terms of launching your career within music. But of
Mm.
course, of course, I'm a little biased because I do live in Brooklyn. I'm a born and raised Brooklynite, so it's like a little biased there. So I'm pretty sure that.
Mm.
And you mentioned the Bronx too. Is like so. I'm pretty sure
We the
you're.
origin. We
Yeah,
the
you.
we the we the we the motherland of
Yeah,
without us and DJ Kool Herc coming to RPT. It's over.
yeah,
There is. I feel like. that's another thing too. Being from the Bronx, I feel like I have a civic duty as a hip hop
Duty.
artist to
Yeah.
like keep the culture going. I feel
Yeah.
like anybody who comes out as a rapper, singer, dancer, any type of artist, you feel me? Hip hop is originated here, and like you have a civic duty to keep it going. You know what I mean? You have to contribute your
Yeah.
part. But yeah, I mean
Uh,
Brooklyn. I'll say one thing about Brooklyn: they hot right now. Like
yeah.
Brooklyn got everybody that's like on fire right now. But Bronx is always gonna be the motherland, and I feel like it's. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's easy to like get your career started in the Bronx because my career is like it's still on the up and up. But yeah, I think definitely like Brooklyn has the crown right now. Honestly,
But speaking of the Bronx, and I know there, and I think Depstein, I think yeah, Depstein is from the Bronx too. Yeah, he is from the Bronx.
yes
Uh,
sir.
uh, have there now the Bronx scene as it is it still like still there, or is it still like just like I mean, is it still there and it hasn't gone away, or is it because of what happened with coronavirus? A lot of people's like I do remember like a lot of people's venues or like shows that they were going to promote in uh like the Bronx and stuff like that really had to stop doing that because of hey, I can't do the show now because there's a pandemic going around. So the Bronx like hip hop scene is it still there and it hasn't gone away, or is it
Of course, it's still
slow?
here.
Yeah. So
Of
is
course.
this or is it on? It's like or is it like I'm trying to get into trying to form a good word here. Is it on a resurgence? There we go.
I mean, we've always been here. Like, feel me? Like the spotlight has like we've always been doing our thing. It's just that other people's hot. You feel me? Like my neighborhood, like we got me and Threeville, my son Jay Guy, he actually right here, and my son Active, J3. There's a whole bunch of people. B Love, Shy K, like we can go on forever. Like we've been here, you know what I mean? Like I said, the spotlight is just elsewhere, but trust and
Yeah.
believe that's our spotlight gonna be on the BX again soon.
Hmm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
other than
Uh,
that though, I don't think it's been like I'm not gonna say it's been a resurgence. I'm not gonna say that. We just been on the, you know,
the down
I
low,
guess.
like
Yeah, on
literally.
the down. I guess on the down low. I guess, like I said, the spotlight's been elsewhere. Like Brooklyn's been on fire for some time now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They've been consistent.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
uh, it's just sad that I'm not really a music head in terms of just music in New York City, but I feel like though I know it's like when you talking about that stuff in your neighborhood, it's like I already get the sensation there's already a conglomerate of like people of like family friends who just support each other within that like music music department like like suddenly that every neighborhood has a music department. I'm sorry that there's a music community. There we go in that neighborhood where it's just like people do support each other and even if it's just like family, friends, that sort of thing too. Uh,
mm.
oh, before I forget, your music. You mentioned your concept in music, so I do feel like as your, what are your concepts in music? Like, what do you? Well, I don't want to say what do you preach about, but what do you do in order to uh, go forward into the message that you're trying to proceed as a artist?
well, my main thing in all my music is substance. Like you feel me? I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. Like there has to be some type of context in my music. There has to be some type of something you take away from it.
Yeah,
So every single song I try to like at least add something I can like teach in there. You know what I mean? That's something that someone can like, oh, I learned this. That's why my name is Grandmaster, because if you know, like people who are really, really good at chess are called Grandmasters. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And if you follow Mortal Kombat, Sub Zero was a Grandmaster. He was also a teacher. You feel
yeah,
me? So that's how I look at it. Like every time, even before I changed my name, like it was Legendary Shogun. I would try to teach lessons within these legends, which are my raps. So
yeah.
every single time I try to teach someone about something like life experience. I always say life is my greatest teacher. So I try to implement that in all my music.
Yeah. And your name also has a very
Yeah.
Japanese feel to it, where it's just like Shogun. And it's like, oh, Shogun. It's like you're almost like a samurai. Well, yeah, I think Shoguns are samurai. I
Nah.
might,
So a shogun, because for people who don't know, a shogun. All right. So in feudal Japan, I think that's the 1800s. Don't quote me on that. But I
yeah,
think in feudal Japan, the hierarchy was there was the emperor, there was the shoguns, there were the samurais, and then there was the peasants.
yeah,
The emperor is the figurehead. You know what I mean? It's just I think of it like the emperor is like Pinocchio, and the shoguns are like Geppetto. You know what I mean? I'm working the stringings from behind the scenes. You don't need to see me. Just
ah,
know the puppets dancing. You know what I mean? That's
yeah,
what a shogun is. The shogun controlled the economic side, the political side, the social side of the entire community back then. And that's what I do. Like I feel like I am a big part of my community. You know what
yeah,
I mean? I can, I speak on social issues every now and then. I was, back in like June, I was marching,
yeah,
for defund the police and things like that. I donated a hell of money. I ain't gonna lie to you. I even got arrested for it over the summer too. Um, you know, and I just try to teach. You know what I mean? That comes along with being the grandmaster. The shogun also likes to to teach people who need it,
yeah,
whoever the case may be, or if someone younger than me. So that's what I try to do.
yeah. Your style that you just mentioned definitely has a reminiscent of Wu Tang. So
Yeah, I get that a lot. I get that a lot.
yeah, even though I'm pretty sure you don't have like the Wu Tang style, that sort of thing too, where it's just
Oh
like
no, I mean I could if I want to, but nah. That's not my go-to though. I like Wu Tang
yeah,
though.
Wu Tang is a great group, but you definitely don't want to like if you do want to homage something, homage it a little bit, but don't like go on full like hey, don't take it, don't be like a full on like uh copy and pasting into your lifestyle, that sort of thing. That's what
Oh,
that's
I already knew that. That's why, like me, like when people hear Shogun, they expect me to do like, I guess Asian kind of beats, and like that's why I stay away from stuff like that because I feel like that really puts me in a box. So
yeah,
you know, I always try to stray away from those Asian type beats because oh look, here comes the Shogun. What's he gonna rap about?
yeah. Now
Having a sword and things like that. So yeah,
now you mentioned this past summer, this sort of thing too. I do want to touch upon the music scene that like really exploded after the what was it June-ish? Yeah, around June-ish, where it's like a lot of people were protesting over the police, and especially in New York City alone, where it's just like for at least like 3 weeks or so, you just couldn't stop hearing about a protest in New York City or something like that.
facts.
And then by the time July hit, it's like, oh, the protests were starting to like die down, but that was because a lot. That's because it was getting a lot more hotter too. So it's like likely because of the summer heat. So it's like I don't, I can't. Even though you want to protest, it's like try protesting in New York City. New York City summers. It is legitimately
Yeah.
hot.
And what made that worse is that around the time, well, the day I got arrested, that was when Cuomo implemented the curfew. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And then that's when like train stations were shutting down after a certain time. But when I went to go protest, I didn't know that though.
yeah,
So I had biked I live by Third Ave. I biked all the way down to Bowling Green. That's the bottom of Manhattan, and eventually had to walk from there back to my house because there's no trains, no
yeah,
buses, there's no Ubers. There's a curfew. You can't get Uber between certain times because of the
yeah,
curfew. So I'm walking home. I may be like 2 blocks from my house. I'm 2 blocks away. Me and my two other friends, we get arrested
mm,
because of that. It's like not only that, it's not only just me, like who probably went through that, and probably dozens of other people who went through that. Honestly, but it
yeah,
was just a sad thing to see over the summer. Honestly, like, but you're right though. Hot, people are angry, fed up, and mind you, there are thousands. I mean, like literally thousands of people behind me screaming, defund the police, fuck the police, say his name, George Floyd,
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor. It was just it was an experience to say the least. Honestly, I still have videos on my phone that that still captivate me to this day. Honestly,
Yeah, it was definitely an experience over that summer because it's like you had, even though I was experiencing it in my house because, it's summertime and too, it's also, um, it's, I have this thing about people being around me, especially if there's like 1,000 people around me, I'm just gonna be like, oh crap. I definitely have to, I definitely do have, legitimate reasons why I don't, go out as much as I do, even though I am an actor, So people, but watching, videos of people like legitimately marching in the streets and stuff like that, and then watching other cities like literally riot and burn or become like autonomous zones, that sort of thing too. It was insane to watch, especially during that summer, where it's just like every single day there was like a new development in the George Floyd case, or
yeah,
there was a new
exactly.
development in a riot or something like that. And of course, it's like not only was it stemming from that, but it was also probably stemming from the fact that there are people who were just being fed up to what was going on. So it's like,
Yeah,
I mean,
honestly,
not like well, I mean, of course, there are people fed up with what was going on with what was happening with the George Floyd Breonna Taylor stuff, but there are people who just fed up with the state of the world and the state of the United States at that point, where it's just
yeah,
like people were just fed up, and there was like legitimately some spark that just became like that. So yeah,
yeah,
in New York City, it was like maybe for the first week, it was like, oh, there were like riots, but they were in like riots where people were like burning down places or something. I mean, they were probably burning down things, but they were like, it
nah, they
was like,
definitely were. Nah, they definitely were burning down stuff. People were definitely there were a lot of right and wrong things with the protesting because some protesting led to riots
yeah,
and some riots led to looting, and I think honestly one of the reasons why I got arrested is because they thought that we were looting, that we came to Third Ave to loot,
nah,
and I'm like,
okay.
nah, we're just trying to go home. But yeah, protesting, honestly, people were out there, with their demands, you know, raising their fist. So yeah, I completely understand why they got out of hand. Like I'm not justifying looting, I'm not justifying stealing. Preferably, I don't really care about that, but I can see why. I can see why. You put us in a melting pot. It was
Yeah,
only bound to. It was bound to happen at someday. And I feel like that was the time.
and I feel like because of what happened over the summer, I feel like the music scene has got gonna springboard into the next couple of years of these social matters and stuff like that too. So
Yeah, facts.
I can't actually wait to hear the stuff that you're gonna be doing like in the next like year or so. That especially come next summer, it's like I feel like that's gonna be like another springboard into like another like music wave or what have you, especially in New York City. So I know that you only had like an hour or so of free time, and you got to leave in a couple seconds. So before we
Yeah.
go, three quick questions. One, do you have advice to those who are watching? Social media plug, and of course, do you have any stuff that you want to plug?
All right. What was the first question again? I forgot. I'm sorry.
Advice,
Advice.
especially those
Advice.
who are emerging hip hop artists.
All right. Emerging hip hop artists. Do your history. That's all I'm gonna say. Do your history. Pay homage to those before you. People have died to even, people have died for mad long just to be even get this far, to even where I'm at. You know what I mean? Do your history, pay homage, and yeah, that's basically it.
Second one is social media. Obviously, you gotta have like
Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Grandmaster Shotgun. Follow my group's Instagram, at Two City Gods. That's the number 2 City Gods, all lowercase. New stuff on there coming soon. And the
And
last question.
and the last question is, do you have any stuff that you want to plug that's coming out?
I got a song
Or
dropping soon.
stuff that you have that's already out that you want to
If
plug.
you follow the Two City Gods page, you will see that we have a song called Spectre Gadget. It is dropping very, very soon. I think the people's gonna like that. It's very energetic. You know,
Then of course, by the time this is released, that song is already that song has already dropped because this episode is probably got to come out in like February, March or so. So it's like that's already gone.
Yeah, facts.
All right, so Grandmaster Shogun, thank you for joining me today on my podcast. Definitely would love to have you and Dev on the podcast as sort of like a roundtable discussion on.
Oh, you should throw Wander in there too. That would be funny.
Yeah, as like, hey, the state of music. Let's talk. All right.
Yeah, facts. That would be a definitely good conversation between us 3.
All right. Take care, everyone, and please stay safe and be well.